Uh, just finished my breakfast, with gas, and thought it could be a good chance to talk about Airbnb, since I am in one at the moment on a trip. Um, a lot of things on the internet, when it comes to anything or everything on videos, they'll just people will just synthesize and bring stuff in from the internet, but I try not to do that unless it's generally helped me on an actual experience. So I'm going to talk you through the ideal process, a process better than my process that you could use when you want to go and book yourself an Airbnb, a place of your desire. So Airbnb is quite popular. Well, you probably have heard of it if you're watching this video, for a very simple reason that apologies, for a very simple reason that you can engage more with the local experience. You can get more for your money, and you can get more flexible options than a hotel. Hotels are very standard. You go in, you check in, and you'll have a room, um, and they can be quite expensive. Whereas sometimes you just want to have an experience with a nice flat, where not everyone else around you are tourists, and you're kind of with the locals a little bit. And Airbnb gives you that opportunity. And I'm using it right now. I'm using it right now for holiday. This isn't any paid sponsorship. It's just yeah. I'm just using it. Um, so when it comes to Airbnb, the first thing is what you want to think about is your booking time. So appreciate you might have a last minute trip, but if you don't, then book it just after you've booked your flight. That way, the closer and closer you are to a time period, the less and less availability you have of Airbnbs and nice ones as well. So if you book it well ahead of time, at least a month, you're likely to get a lot more better quality Airbnbs at your price with a lot of features. Um, I absolutely love this little Airbnb here I'm staying at in Burgas. It's just got everything I want. It's like she's thought about things that I haven't thought about yet. I know I want, and I look at it like just today. I've just looked at this thing here. I might need that um, for the right reasons, but I might need that um, to yeah. But in case I'm having something spicy and need it, but yeah, it's there, and I haven't even thought about it. Earlier, yesterday, I looked here and I saw a dryer. I was like, damn, a dryer, a dryer in this place, in an Airbnb. I haven't even thought about these things, and yet it's already there. So that's, I think, a little magic touch about an Airbnb. You can get a lot more for your money in terms of features and things you just wouldn't expect to have in a normal hotel. So the first thing I'd look for, and this is an absolute bias, and maybe it's not even helping young hosts and less experienced hosts, is I'd go for a super host. And I know this is annoying because there's if there's definitely going to be other hosts who are not super hosts who are really good, and I have my full respect for them. But if you're really, if it's your first experience of Airbnb and you want to be as safe as possible, you want to take advantage of a super host. And I think it's like a little blue star icon. You'll usually spot it when you're searching for stuff. These people who are super hosts are have been carefully chosen by Airbnb because they have good reviews and they're experienced in hosting. They have an outstanding level of reviews, they're experienced in hosting. What's the best way of explaining what Superhost is? It's like when you're going for, um, Tesco and you're buying food. If you live in the UK, Tesco. I don't know if you're watching from the US, it could be Walmart and their equivalent. But you've got in the UK we have something called Tesco, and we have something called Tesco Finest. And you always know Tesco Finest, you pay a little bit more, but you're gonna get that touch of magic in the food. And it's the same with Airbnb. They've got a premium, and they've got ultimately you pay for everything, but you've got a little bit more premium service, and that's what Superhost is. So you can get some really good returns, and they'll just you can have a genuine good relationship with them in case you do have any issues. So I'd always recommend that's the first thing you look for. So book as early as possible, just after you've booked your flight. Go for a Superhost. those are probably the two key takeaways. There's another key takeaway I'm going to take you right at the last of the video because there's a few important things I want to also go through. But if you're being quite particular and specific, you might not want to exhaust all the features, but there are features where you can look at. We can look at particular items that you want, amenities in the room. So for me, if you're staying in a hot country, having a solid air conditioning system like that is really useful. A place to wash my dishes in case I'm bringing food out from out, which is to be a sink, and ideally with some cutlery, but just to be a sink. Um, and just a decent sized bed, a double sized bed will always help, whether you're single or whether you're in a couple, it's just got more space for yourself, as a personal preference. But some of these features you might find on Airbnb, some of these you won't. But they're not exactly the most, crucial things. But they always help if you want to. If you want to, like, if you've got a few really good ones and you want to like kind of filter down, you can always use these as like filters. Like, does it have a spare sink? Does it have a laundrette facility? Does it have air conditioning? Does it have an ensuite? Um, that's one thing you want to look for. Now, I'm going to tell you an interesting story. This was last year, and I was going to Greece. I was going to a place called Rania, Greeks amongst you. You can tell me how you pronounce it properly. Um, and I deliberately was looking for a hostel because of how expensive things were. But it was very interesting to see that at that price, I was seeing pictures of pretty nice rooms. And I looked a little bit into it, and they were really nice rooms, but they were like the best rooms of what was available in a hostel, and the building itself was actually a hostel, and for that price, you wouldn't necessarily get that room. You'd get a lower price room, but they were advertising it with the best room, and you could be easily misled and end up just staying at a really like an 8 bed hostel. So there's a few ones out there, and they're not necessarily going to be super hosts. But if you're going to a really popular place, if you're going to go for a hostel, go for a hostel. But don't if you're willing to spend that little bit more for a room, don't be fooled into these kind of fake picture of hostels. It's not necessarily not hostels, but they're showing you rooms that are the top range of the hostels, whereas you're not be paying for that top room. So either you pay for the top room or you don't. And usually a hostel will still have like at least 2 beds or something like that. But that's something to look out for when you're booking an Airbnb. Um, the other thing I'd say is as soon as you've booked, is the other thing I'd say before the last one actually is really important. This is probably the most important point. One of the most important points is check whether your booking is non-refundable or refundable. So I had a case where, or even like if you can cancel, I don't know if all features have it. But basically, what happened, and I still don't remember if I actually got money back for this one, only because I'm not sure if it was refundable. But basically, what happened, but I think I did. Basically, what happened was I was booking a flight to Sweden. So I went to Sweden last year, and I was coming back. I was trying to predict the fact that I was going to come back at a really late time because often cheaper flights have really odd times. I was going to come back at such an odd time. At the time, I was living in Portsmouth, so I wanted to book myself a reserve hotel in I think it was Crawley. So I was going from Gatwick, so I believe Crawley, Gatwick are nearby. Um, and then I realised it was really expensive, and there was something right very close to mine, very close to Gatwick that I could use as a reserve hotel. So I wanted to change it. I was a little bit worried, but thankfully I could cancel it because it was within the new notice period. But if you take it a little bit too late, you might find that you can't actually get a refund because it's not refundable on a certain period of time. It was never refundable at all. So these are things you want to look at. Look at the refund policy, and it's the same for the hotel as well, but it's the same for an Airbnb. It's something to be interested in. And lastly, last but not least, DM the host about any questions. Your keys. Most of them will show you where the keys are, some of them won't. But tell them your ETA, your estimated arrival time. Keep them informed. There's a messenger on Airbnb for a reason. To keep your host informed so that when you arrive there, they're ready they're hopefully as ready as they can be to give you the keys and to tell you how to get in there and to tell you any little things you want to know, any little rules about the room that's important for you to know. So that's something you want to do. In my case, I have the advantage of staying with a local who lives here, and he was more than happy to contact the host and to let him know my legitimacy, and just to continue building that relationship, because you've got to understand Airbnb is a two-way platform. Unlike a hotel where they can't really vet their guests as much bar having a secure payment information, With an Airbnb, not only are the hosts verified and a host reviewed, the guests are reviewed as well. Thankfully, touch wood, I've got good positive reviews so far. But you may have a guest where they've had mixed reviews. But if a local calls up and say, look, he's a genuine lad, he's really good, he's generally really, really good, the host is less likely to reject his proposal to stay there. So, yeah, it's just a really, really, really cool thing to have. I think those are the things. I think those are the things that I wanted to cover. Um, and hopefully that's helped you out when it comes to looking at Airbnb. I know there's so many different things you could be looking at. And please let me know if I haven't covered anything that you wanted to cover. But this is pure my experience. I've stayed at several Airbnbs now, and I'm 20. I'm not that old. I'm 23, but I've stayed in quite a few Airbnbs in London, staycations abroad. Um, and I've also stayed in hotels. I personally have a far bigger preference for Airbnbs than hotels. I think hotels can be quite restrictive and you cannot really be as embedded in the local culture if that's something you're interested in. I'm very interested in local culture, in really understanding where I'm at, as much as I can be for a week at least. Because this is the thing with a lot of hotels, like, and a lot of places, is you can, people have a preference for hotels, fair enough, but you can end up seeing the same thing, and you won't get much. You won't be able to experience the culture if you stay at a standard big chain hotel in the same hotel chain everywhere around the world. It's why I would never really stay at Marriott, partly because it's quite expensive for me anyway, but secondly, it's not really the local culture. It's just the standard chain that does for business trips. If you're not really worried about local culture and you just want to go there and do your job, fair enough. But if you're genuinely interested in staying there, even like a normal budget hotel like Ibis, why would you stay in Ibis in like South Africa or Zimbabwe? We can easily stay at a really nice superhost and really experience an authentic South African experience. Especially in this modern age of travel. Previously, it might have not been the case. Previously, it might have been difficult and to get a legitimate host. But with these superhost things in Airbnb that they do, it generally is really useful. Um, But yeah, again, feel free to use other platforms. I've used a few other platforms like hostel.com, a few other ones as well. Hostel.com by the name is indicates it's great for hostels. There's other ones as well like Trivago but I to be honest I'm not as familiar with them, so I wouldn't recommend something I'm not familiar with. But these are the ones. This is just generally what I've used. So this is like the overall process. Um, and of course, if you want any kind of guide on doing this step by step and timelines, or best timelines, if you have any ideas or if you have something you want to have a second pair of eyes on, feel free to comment below. I'm more than happy to build a custom guide for you. If that's what you want when you're traveling. If it's your first time traveling, if it's your first time going and using an Airbnb. If you've always been a hotel traveler. But yeah, that's ultimately kind of my take on it. Um, and hopefully I've made this really useful for you, and hopefully it's something that can help you out. And I look forward to hearing from you guys and from yourself as well about this. So thank you and take care. Bye bye.